So as we continue our discussion with basic computer networking, we will now proceed with an in-depth discussion of the IP address. So again, IP address is an identifier unique. So it must be that every device in the network should have an IP address that is different to each other. So the IP address or the original IP address format, which is the IPv4, is a 32-bit numeric address, which is the numbers can only be from 0 to 255. So this is an example of a format of your IP address. It's 0.0.0. It's a decimal number uh, uh, with separated by a dot. So hindi point ang tawag dyan, hindi siya dapat basahin as 0.0. It should be 0.0.0, hindi rin period, 0.0. Okay? So you use the word dot when reading your IP addresses. So an example of that is 255.255.255.255. Now, I have a question. If you can use 0 if the possible address is from 255.255.255.255. Why is it that we cannot use until 999? So for example, 999.999.999.999. Can't you use that number? So the reason is that IP addresses are based on binary numbers. So it's actually in this format, 1 byte, that 1 byte, that 1 byte, that 1 byte, or since 1 byte is equal to 8 bits, it's 8 bits, dot 8 bits, dot 8 bits, dot 8 bits. Where in 1 bit, it can be 0 or 1. So this is an example of an 8-digit binary number. So you can write it. It can be 0 or 1. Kaya you can write this as 10111011 or 1100, or basically the maximum 8 binary digit that you can have is 111111. Now let us use your calculator, your Windows calculator, to convert binary to decimal. So let us open your Windows calculator. Calculator. There you go. So Windows have a built-in calculator. So it can be the standard. You can use the standard mode, but this time we will be using the programmer mode, wherein you can see the different values for hexadecimal, decimal, octal, and binary. So suppose your binary number is one, sorry, 1000100. So balik rin natin ulit. Let's start from scratch. 10001000. So what is the decimal number of that? So clicking decimal, it's 136. Okay? Now let's have another one. So how about 10101111? So that is another 8-digit binary number, and that when converted to decimal is 175. However, how about we use the maximum binary digit number, which is all ones. So 1111111. So this is an 8-digit binary number. Lahat sila 1. So converting that to decimal, you get 255. So there you go. That is the reason why you can only use until 255 to your IP address, because Since each byte, each decimal here can only have a maximum value of 8 bits, which is in decimal number 8 bit, the maximum number of 8 bits is 255 only. Okay? So that is the reason you cannot use more than that. Okay? Now, another question is this. If you only have possible IP addresses that you can use from 0.0.0 to 55.255.255.255, how many possible IP addresses can we make? Or how many IP addresses are available for us to use? Now you will learn this in your fourth quarter in math. But since we do not yet know the concept on how to solve this problem, we can proceed directly to the answer. The answer is 4,228,250,625. Now, the IPv4 address is created on 1980. So, in 1980, wherein the world population at that time is around 4.3 billion. So, actually, they have an insight that in the current trend of the world population, which is now, currently, the world population is 7.674 billion. Now, let us assume that each person has a device, a smartphone specifically, which needs, each smartphone should need an IP address to connect to the internet, right? Some nga, hindi lang isa ang kanyang device. Smartphone, may tablet na siya, may laptop pa siya. So then that means if each person has a device that needs an IP address, then that means there is not enough IP address for all the devices in the world, right? So that was the problem when IPv4 was created. So as you can see, after 18 years, they developed another protocol called the IPv6, wherein compared to your IPv4, from 32 bits, it becomes 128 bits. So it is written in this format, 16 bits, colon 16 bits. So you have 8 16 bits, which is in hexadecimal form. The IPv4 uses the decimal form. So this is an example of your IPv6. Okay, so mas mahaba. And of course, since mas maraming information yung pwede nating mailagay, since mas mahaba to, we can deduce that the possible IP addresses here will be increased. And as you can see, let us zoom this information here. With the IPv4, you can only have 4 billion. But with the IPv6, you can have as many as this one. Okay. Quick question. How do you read that number? Pwede nang hindi examination for the third quarter. Okay, joke lang. Okay, so the answer is, okay, so how do you read that? So this is how you read that. It's 340 decillion. So imagine if you have a money like that. That's joking. So 340 decillion, 282 nonillion, 366 octillion, 920 septillion, 938 sextillion, 463 quintillion, 374 quadrillion, 607 trillion, 431 billion, 768 million, 211,456. So pagbabasa lang, nahirapan pa ako. Sana all ganyan karami ang pera. Anyway, so as you can see, with this current number of possible IP address, we won't have any problem. Since lalo na ngayon, the trend is all the devices will be having IP addresses because all devices that we have now will become smart, like smart refrigerator. Are you familiar with that? So your smart refrigerator, if it checks Your eggs, you do not have eggs on your ref, so it will notify you through SMS, or you need to order eggs, or you need to order your juice. Okay? So everything now is becoming smart. So all our devices will be needing an IP address to connect to the internet. So there will be no problem in the future to come that we will run out of IP addresses. So the issue is resolved. Now, there is also a reserved IP network address. So before the IPv6 protocol, merong measure din na ginagawa. There are measures that have been developed to extend your IPv4 address. And this is through the use of reserved IP network addresses. So these reserved IP network addresses are used in private networks. Ano ba yung mga private networks? Inside the office or office network, company network, your home network. So even your home network, there is a reserved IP network address that you can use such that it work alongside with your network address translation. So yung the external IP address, yun yung ginagamit sa internet, and you have your internal IP address, which is the reserved IP network address. So imagine if you inside your company network, meron kang 100, 1,000 devices there. So hindi siya maidadagdag doon sa IPv4 address to the possible IPv4 address, because you are using a reserved IP network address which everyone can use in their own network. So an example of that is if you look at your IP address, if you open your command prompt here and you use your ipconfig. So ipconfig is a tool that you can use to check your IP addresses. And as you can see, the common routers that we buy nowadays have a default IP address value, which is the class C, 192.168.0.0/24 or yun yung network na ginagamit for your office network or home network. So these are the IP addresses, reserved IP network addresses that you can use on your private network. So class A, if you want if you want many possible IP addresses, or mas marami kang available IP address compared to class B. And of course, yung pinaka maliit na possible number of IP addresses is a class C, since you're talking about home network lang. So usually this is used in large organization, mid-sized companies, home networks, or small office networks. Okay? Ako, personally, since you can actually configure naman your routers at home, I would rather use Class A network address because mas madali siyang tandaan. Unlike this one na mas mahirap kabisaduhin. Okay, now, is there an automated way to assign IP address? Now, as you can see, if we buy a router at home, wala naman tayo kino-configure na IP address, right? Hindi natin ina-assign statically yung mga devices natin para makakuha ng IP addresses. It automatically connects to the internet yung mga device natin. You just plug your router, you plug your router to the internet cable, and there you go. Pag kumonekta yung mga devices mo, you get an access to the internet. And why is that? Because of the DHCP server, which is included or built in your routers. So what is a DHCP server, or simply the dynamic the acronym of that is Dynamic Host Control Protocol. It automatically provides IP addresses or network configuration to your devices. It is also called the dynamic IP addressing. So in the future, kapag gagawa na tayo ng diagrams, we won't be assigning single IP addresses to your laptops, to your mobile devices, to your desktop, because we will be using the HCP for that. We will only assign or statically or manually assign IP addresses to routers, access point, and servers. So, in the near future, paggagawa tayo next time ng ating mga diagrams like this one, hindi na tayo mag-a-assign ng mga IP address na singular. Gagamitin natin yung DHCP to show that these devices are automatically given IP address. Now, for the servers and the routers, you have to statically assign them or manually assign them. The reason is that these devices are important that you know their IP addresses because you need to configure them from time to time, or you need to access to your file server from time to time. That is the reason you need to know or you need to assign an IP address to them automatically. For example, I need to connect to my file server. Oh, sorry. So let me connect to my file server here. So let me use 10.0.0.32. So there you go. So you have, since I know the IP address, since I assigned them or manually assigned IP addresses to these servers, I can connect to them anytime. Unlike pag dynamic addressing, hindi ko alam kung anong maging IP address ng device na yon. So, like for example, again, I need to connect to my router. So let me connect again to my router. So my router is 10.0.0.100. So I'll give you a glimpse of what of the configuration or the web configuration tool of routers. So let me access my router here. Oops, sorry. Again. There you go. So this is the configuration page of your router, wherein you can see here in the advanced options, you can see here the DHCP server. And these are the configuration settings for your DHCP server. So the first thing is the IP address pool. Ito yung mga possible IP addresses that you can give automatically to your devices connecting to it. So for example, so if our address pool, so let's have a quick recitation here. If my address pool is from 192.168.100.100 up to 192.168.100.199, how many devices can I automatically give IP addresses? So again, if my IP address pool starts from 192.168.100.100 until 192.168.100.199, how many devices can I connect automatically to this router? So let me, okay. So for the next question, Suppose I have 100 devices that have already connected to my device. Now, let us suppose the address lease time, itong address lease time is the total time for it to, for the IP address that it uh, leased or pinahiram niyang IP address, ito yung time niya. For example, after 2 hours, kukunin niya ulit yon, pero kung nakakabit pa rin siya, ipapahiram niya ulit for another 2 hours. Pero in this case, let's neglect this muna. Uh, uh, let's assume this is forever. Or so in this case, may 100 na nakakabit na device. Ngayon, paano kung may pang 101 na device na ko-connect? So what will happen to that device? O sige, let me repeat that again. So may 100 na nakakonect, may pang 101 na ko-connect. So what do you think will happen to that device?
Si Guzman.
Okay, so again, the answer for that is the device will be connected, but there is no internet or there is no network access. Now, these are the other configurations that that the DHCP provides, like the default gateway. So what again is a default gateway? So it's actually optional if you do not put an information of, in this one, kung ano yung IP address nitong router na to, yun yung ilalagay niya. So as you can see in our IP config, the default gateway is basically your router that gives you your dynamic IP address. Okay? So what else or what information does a DHCP server provides? Another one is your subnet mask, which is very important in your network. So going back to your command prompt, so you can see that you have a subnet mask here. So what really is a subnet mask? So a subnet mask is, let's go back to the presentation. So a subnet mask defines the computer's current network address, the broadcast range, and the host's range. The host's range is basically the possible IP addresses that you can use in that specific network. Now, the network address and the broadcast address is this one. So in your network address, it is the IP address used by the router to differentiate one network to another. So let's have an analogy. So in in postal mail or in snail mail, you have may mga tinatawag na post office. So that's also the case with the network address. So there is a post office wherein sa loob ng post office na doon lahat yung mga addresses ng mga tao sa lugar na yon. So that is also the same in a router. The router knows all the devices in its own network. So para makilala yung router na yon, they use a network address to define itself. Okay? Since remember that the internet is connected by many routers, a router should have an identification. Even the routers should have an identification. And the network address is that identification they use to know the difference from one router to another. Now, the broadcast address naman is the address used by the router to send the broadcast messages. So let's go back to the sample configuration or sample diagram. So as you can see here, the first thing that happens when you open a computer or a laptop and connects that to the internet, the first thing that it will do is uh, is to broadcast a message. The message is, uh, do we have a DHCP server here? So yun yung unang tatanungin ni laptop. So what the broadcast message is sent to all the devices in that network or all the devices under that router. So ipapadala niya since hindi niya kilala kung sino si router. So ipapadala niya sa lahat ng IP to the use of the broadcast address, mapapadala lahat yung information na yon sa lahat ng devices in the network. So until ma-reach ni router yung message, okay, ako si DHCP server. Okay, so I will reply back to you. So that is how devices in the network find each other. So si router din, for example, it receives a packet from the internet and it will try to forward that to the specific device. Meron ba dito, sasabihin nito ni router, meron ba dito 192.168.0.4? So it will send that information to everyone or it will broadcast. And how do you do that? By using a single IP address that will be broadcasted to everyone. So how do we use the subnet mask to solve for that? So going back to the presentation, let me just okay. Okay, so let us proceed with solving the network address broadcast range and the host range given the subnet mask. So let us try to solve. So to solve for the network address, we will be looking the corresponding number compared in terms of your subnet mask. So let us compare uh, each byte or ano paano ba to? Yung katapat na lang. So in layman's term. So ano yung katapat na number ni 192 to your subnet mask? Kapag 255, kokopyahin mo siya sa iyong network address. So let us try to solve for the network address. First, again, kapag katapat ng number ng IP address digit, yung subnet mask na 255, that means kokopyahin mo yung number ng IP address. So in this case, si 192, katapat niya si 255. So ang gagawin mo, kokopyahin mo yung digit ng IP address na yon. Next, si 168, ang katapat niya ay 255. So again, kokopyahin mo yung IP address digit na yon. Again, sa pangatlo, ang katapat na, the third digit, IP address digit, ang katapat niya sa subnet mask is 255. So what we needed to do is to copy that digit. Lastly, kapag ang katapat naman ng IP address digit ay 0, magiging 0 siya sa network address. Magiging 0 siya sa network address. Question? Okay, so let's start from scratch again. Pagkatapat niya ay 255, kokopyahin yung IP address digit. Kapag katapat niya ay 0, magiging 0 sa network address. Okay. So 192, katapat si 255, kaya kokopyahin. Si 168, katapat si 255, kaya kokopyahin. Si 0, katapat si 255, kaya kokopyahin. Si 1, katapat si 0, kaya magiging 0 sa network address. Ay, sorry. Kokopyahin nga eh. Wait lang ha. Kokopyahin. Yan. Okay? So, moving on to the broadcast address. So, ano ba yun? Kokopyahin, magiging 0. Okay. Okay? Any questions so far? So, this is your network address. Ito yung, it defines the network kung saan si IP, yung IP address na ito ay located. Okay, si broadcast address. Ano naman ang gagamitin niya to broadcast information to all the devices in the network? So again, kapag katapat ng IP address ay 255, kokopyahin. Pero kapag ang katapat niya naman ay 0, magiging 255 sa broadcast address. Okay, so again, katapat niya ay 255, so kopya ulit. Katapat niya ay 255, kopya. Katapat niya ay 255, kopya. Katapat niya ay 0, magiging 255. Again, let's start from scratch. Katapat niya ay 255, kopya. Katapat niya ay 255, kopya. Katapat niya ay 255, kopya. Katapat niya ay 0, magiging 255. So the broadcast address, ito yung gagamitin para mag-send ng broadcast information sa lahat ng devices sa network na yon. And lastly, para malaman natin yung mga possible IP addresses that we can use in that network, gagawin lang natin, kopyahin natin si network address, baguhin lang natin yung 1 sa dulo. Ng 1 yung dulo. So 192.168.0.1 hanggang itong dulo naman ng broadcast address magiging 254. So 192.168.0.254. So these are all the possible IP addresses that you can use in your network. So also, hindi mo pwedeng gamitin to sa mga device. Ito at saka ito. Kasi it is reserved for the network address. Ito naman, it is reserved only for the broadcast address. Question so far? None. Okay, so let us proceed to the next. Let's try to solve another one. Just wait. Okay. So as you can see, the subnet mask can change. You can, hindi palaging ito. You can also use this one. So basically depends on you, on what configuration you want. Okay, pero in this case, let's try to find the network address for this type of subnet mask. So the first one is, kasi who wants to try?
Si Guzman po.
Bondo.
Sige, wait lang. Okay, so let's try. Sige, De Guzman muna.
Share 10 po. Yung sa network address po, una
Ano?
is 10.
10.
10 po.
Oh, wait lang.
Dot 0.
10.0.
Dot 0. Dot 0.
0.0. Very good. So let's try naman si Miss Bondok, female, for the broadcast address.
250 10.255.255.255.
So 10.255.255.255. Is that correct? Okay. So how about the host range?
Dolot po.
Dollar, proceed.
10.0.0.1 to 10.255.255.254.
So 10.255.255.254. Okay, well said. That is correct. Okay, let's have another one. Sorry. There you go. Who wants to try.
Angeles po.
Uh, who is that again? Pardon?
Ako po.
Medina ba?
Angeles.
Angeles?
Opo.
Okay, proceed. Angeles.
172
172.
172.16
Continue.
0.0.
Okay, that is correct. Broadcast range.
Quelio. Kulod.
Quelio. Proceed. Quelio.
Sure, 172
172.
dot 16
Continue.
dot 255.255.
Okay, very good. And finally, sorry,
Nortes po.
Celestina po.
and then, sino na una?
Nortes po.
Nortes, Nortes.
172.16 po ay dot 172.16.0.1 to 172.16.255.254.
Very good. So that's it. So, uh, so let us continue with this one. Okay, so hanggang dito lang muna tayo. So I'll be, this is your assignment. We will meet tomorrow because we need to finish this, all the concepts para by next week ay makapag-simula na tayo ng ating final task. Okay? So, I want you to answer this at home and we will meet tomorrow at home. Sorry. Ito, hala ko face-to-face pa rin tayo. Kindly answer that and I'll be calling someone tomorrow to show their answers. Okay, so we'll continue this next time.